Tonight on The Local Live.
A special land use summit in the village of Mamaroneck aims to bring life to the industrial area. Details coming up.
Residents in the town of Mamaroneck get a tax surprise.
The Community Resource Center joins the Westchester May Rally to support immigration rights.
Mamaroneck Food Truck and Makers Market is in the spotlight.
The Rye City Council votes to file an appeal on playland.
And in our live roundtable, we learn about the town of Mamaroneck's efforts to bring bike lanes to our community.
Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday, May 4th. I'm Alexandria Garcia.
And I'm Baez. Welcome to The Local Live. Now, we have a lot in store for you tonight, so let's get started. And this just in. The suspect in the hit and run of Vincent's truck driver Salvatore Brescia was arrested today. Anthony Mangano, a 51-year-old Queens resident, was charged with a felony for leaving the scene of the fatal accident. According to police, Brescia, of 32 years old, lost his life helping a disabled vehicle in a northbound lane on I-95 near exit 18B back on December 29th. Now, according to the Daily Voice, Mangano was arraigned in the town of Harrison Court and released on $2,000 bail. And now he is due back in court on Tuesday, May 16th.
Last week, several land use boards came together for a joint meeting to consider innovative development in Mamaroneck Village's industrial zone around Fenimore Road between I-95 and the railroad. The special session was convened by the Industrial Advisory Committee, a group of residents, business, and property owners. They aim to attract new business and create a maker zone. Maker is an acronym for manufacturing, artisanal foods, crafts, environmental buffer, and recreation.
So the concept is to activate the maker zone, and the maker zone, as Andy said, is to pick up on what's already there, the manufacturing that's already there, try to pick up on some of the artisanal food businesses that are already there, try to bring some craft businesses down, and then bring an environmental buffer around the zone, trying to do something, maybe bring a little bit of that Brooklyn vibe down to the maker zone.
The group hopes for a zoning change to allow retail. For more info, watch the entire Land Use Summit meeting on www.lmctv.org.
Hundreds of Mamaroneck town homeowners received a surprise tax hike this spring. In April, a letter from the town explained why. According to an account in the Loop NY, 740 parcels were reassigned from Mamaroneck to New Rochelle's sewer district to correct a long-term error. Since New Rochelle is a higher sewer tax, those parcels got bigger bills. Town Administrator Steve Altieri told the Loop, quote, "In retrospect, we could have just advised people of the reclassification, but I am not sure that the taxpayers would have understood the meaning of that change," end quote.
Mamaroneck's Community Resource Center was among the local organizations at the May Day rally in White Plains. A few hundred gathered at the stairs of the county building on Martine Avenue to show their support for immigrant workers. White Plains Mayor Thomas Roach and other elected officials voiced their support for the county's immigrant workforce.
We are here because we rallied today and specifically for workers' rights. We know that this type of political administration is allowing for immigrant workers to allow exploitive acts in their workplace, not safety workplaces, and that is not something that we want for our communities. So we are here in unity to rally together with all of our partners, because only together will we prevail against this political administration.
The county clerk can't stay away. In an interview with Mamaroneck Town Councilman Tom Murphy, Westchester County Clerk Tim Adoni says he'll run one more time.
I'm running one more time. I've term limited myself this time. I've been around a long, long time, and so I'm going to give it 4 more years, and then it's time to get out of the way and let somebody else take a shot at it.
Adoni's been in public service over 36 years. He spent the last 10 as clerk managing county land records, serving as clerk of the Supreme and Westchester County Clerks, and handling Westchester's naturalization services. His plan for the election: use incumbency advantage to help get his name out there, run an active campaign, and remember to stay positive.
Everybody thinks you got to throw bombs at your opponent. I prefer to throw my resume and my accomplishments out there and ask people to appreciate what I've done.
Though Adoni admits that county clerk isn't the sexiest job in the world, he's willing to fight to keep his spot and plans to do it with a smile.
The City Council voted on April 21st to appeal a state judge's decision over control of Playland Amusement Park. In March, the judge threw out Rye's original suit, leaving authority with Westchester County over planned capital improvements. Playland is located in Rye, but is owned by the county. The 99-year-old amusement park is long overdue for renovations, but they have been snagged by litigation between the county and Rye. Renovations include repairing the leaking Playland pool that alone could cost up to $10 million. Playland is opening next weekend for the season.
Lena Canavo will be Mamaroneck High School's new assistant principal as of July 1st. She comes from Rye Neck, where for 10 years she taught Spanish and Italian. Canavo also established data analysis district-wide and provided professional development for Rye Neck staff, supporting students with learning and behavioral needs. She is currently a community leader intern at the Community Resource Center.
Yesterday, Mamaroneck High School's Chloe Malashaga received the Youth Award Certificate and Congressional Certificate for Outstanding Achievement from St. Vincent's Hospital. Since 1983, St. Vincent has honored high school students and whose volunteer service best exemplifies the hospital's mission. Go Tigers! Neighbors for Refugees, formerly known as Hearts and Homes for Refugees of Larchmont and Mamaroneck, announces a new event called Welcoming Refugees, What Can You Do? This will take place at Westchester Jewish Center on Sunday, June 11th from 2 to 5 p.m. The Larchmont and Mamaroneck community will speak on behalf of refugees and will talk about ways to help. Organizer of the event, Holly Rosenfink, says this event is to primarily inspire and encourage people to act to help refugees. New York Times journalist Jody Cantor will be the keynote speaker at the event, as well as local politicians, clergy, and representatives from highest and Catholic charities.
Bringing us the online stories trending in the media, here is Chloe Malashaga.
Spring has finally sprung and summer is just around the corner. Looking for places to go to satisfy that spring fever? A few great places where you can enjoy the outdoors are Marshlands Conservatory in Rye, Teatown Lake Reservation in Ossining, and also in Ossining is the Kitchewan Preserve. To find out what other great places where you can go and enjoy the great outdoors, visit the Patch. The two Democrats running for the office of Westchester County Executive addressed a church full of potential voters on Sunday. County Legislator Ken Jenkins, a Yonkers Democrat, and State Senator George Latimer, a Rye Democrat, laid out their plans to unseat Republican incumbent Rob Astorino and urged them to participate in November's election. For more information, visit the Rye City Review. In the Daily Voice this week, the Mamaroneck Sal's Pizzeria tied with Johnny's Pizzeria in Mount Vernon for the Delicious Best Pizza contest. Each won 44% of the vote. Stop by Sal's on the Avenue for one of their delicious Sicilian slices. In Tiger news, Mamaroneck High schooler Leah Rothman was awarded first place last Sunday at the Westchester Future Filmmakers Festival. Rothman was among 73 students from 13 schools who showcased their work at the festival. Her film, Unaware, is a conceptual work inspired by the lyrics of the Dave Matthews Band song, Ants Marching. Definitely a filmmaker to watch. Want to read more? Check out the Patch for more info. Looking for something to do this Saturday, May 6th? From 2 to 3, the Village of Larchmont Recreation will host the Tour de Larchmont at Constitution Park. There will be music, food, bicycle decorating, and helmet safety workshops, followed by a 1-mile group bike ride around the manor. Stick around afterwards to grab a hot dog from the famous Walter's hot dog truck. To find out more about Saturday's event, go to villageoflarchmont.org. If you can find it online, you can find it in the media. I'm Chloe Malashaga.
It's time for our local trivia, and then coming up, we'll have our live roundtable with Stephen Moser and Mitch Green, who will talk about the bike route.
Hi, my name is Will, and I'm here with the trivia question of the week. How many studios does LMC-TV have?
Good evening. May is National Bike Month, and just in time, you may have noticed some new bike lanes and signage in Larchmont. Tonight, we're talking about pedaling those lanes and steering people from 4 wheels to 2. I'm Maura Carlin. Tonight's spokesman, get it, from the Town of Mamaroneck Sustainability Collaborative are its chair, Mitch Green, and Steve Moser, who is the head of the bike task force of the collaborative.
Right.
Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Steve, I'm going to actually start with you. Those bike lanes on Larchmont Avenue in Larchmont, how did that come about?
It was part of a community-wide initiative. There was a complete street studies done in 2012, so it's taken a long time for it to happen. It was approved last year by the Village of Larchmont, and they just got them rolled out for Bike Month this year.
Because some residents seem surprised, like they seem to spring up all of a sudden, but you say this was approved a whole year ago.
It was. In fact, they were supposed to go in last fall, but it took it took a little while for them to get the timing of doing them this spring. And as part of it is what you announced before, the Tour de Larchmont that's going to be happening this weekend.
That's right. That's this Saturday, right?
That's right.
Okay.
2:30.
2:30.
Yep.
Where do they meet?
They meet at Constitution Park, which is right next to the town center there, and it's a fun ride that families and kids. It's not a race, that can ride back and forth on the new bike lane.
And how far down? Where is the bike lane? It starts, let's say, at Palmer Avenue and Larchmont Avenue. And how far down does it go on Larchmont?
It goes all the way down Larchmont Avenue to right where Manor Park begins. And then it runs on both sides of the road. So they're going to ride down and back again. And it's the first one in our community. We're really happy about it.
Well, when I think of biking communities, I think of Copenhagen, maybe even Brooklyn.
Right.
But is it that popular here?
Oh, yeah. It really is. Well, Mitch, why don't you chime in?
So what communities around the area, around the region, communities very similar to Mamaroneck and Larchmont have found is that there are a number of different constituencies. One of the strongest constituencies, in fact, are commuters. But really, if you think about it, there are two types. There are the adults, like Steve and me, but there are also a lot of school kids. If you go to Hommocks, if you go to Mamaroneck High School, even some of the elementary schools in our community, over the last few years, you'll see more and more bike racks coming, and as soon as a bike rack shows up, it gets filled up rather quickly. So there is quite a population, and a big population that would really like to be biking but doesn't necessarily feel as comfortable as they could.
So a study was done. Was this emailed to town residents to find out who's interested or how many are interested? Is that right?
So the study that I think you're talking about, we received from Sam Schwartz, LLC. They're the transportation consultants that the town hired for this preliminary stage of bike route development. And that study was done around the region. That was done primarily in towns like Mamaroneck and Larchmont. And so it's not necessarily just people in Brooklyn or in the Lower East Side. These are really communities like ours. They're suburban communities, a little bit older, with sometimes fairly compact downtowns. The ability for people to do more biking, go to the train in the morning or the evening, bicycle to their schools, but maybe that infrastructure isn't developed yet.
So part of the presentation I think you had done, it talked about 60% of people are interested in biking but are concerned. Is that not limited to town of Mamaroneck residents?
That's correct. I think Steve's a good example of this. One of the other statistics is that there's 3 to 5% who are committed and energetic and do this all the time. That would be Steve. Right. I'm more in the interested but concerned segment. People, of course, have the right and should be concerned about traffic on the roads. Are their kids going to be safe? How do we deal with all of that? How can we develop a roadways in our town and in the villages that aren't just for cars, but they're for pedestrians, they're for people who might be disabled, and they're for people who need mobility aids, and they're also for people on bicycles.
Well, I just have to mention that in that study, about a third weren't interested in biking at all. And does that concern you at all?
Steve?
No, because part of putting in bike lanes, as we started this was this idea of having a complete street, and so what we found by doing this, by creating a road that can be not just for automobiles but for a slower vehicle, that it actually makes it safer for everybody. So the idea of even though we're talking about bike lanes, and this is Bike Month, and the very first of our of this project, it really is about making the community safer. So
well, let me interrupt and ask you: is there evidence that having bike lanes make it safer?
Yes, there is. It actually,
what are the statistics and where did they come from? Are they from the National Traffic Safety, whatever, NTSB?
That's right. And there's a national organization for biking. New York City, as you know, has successfully rolled out a kind of bike lane project, and part of our
there's been criticism of it.
Yes, there's been criticism of it, but it's been the bike share the bike share program, not problem, has been hugely successful. You mentioned actually at the start about talking about communities like the Netherlands and other places. They started in the 50s doing this. The truth is that our community is actually kind of behind the times in terms of doing this. I mean, our roads were developed. Most of them were kind of after the Second World War in the 40s, and our communities have really changed. And so this is an opportunity to sort of be with the times. There are all kinds of alternative transportations. It's not just automobiles now, and this is part of that. So it makes it safer.
Well, this morning I actually took some video of the new bike lanes, and I have to tell you, I saw, it was early, 10 to 12 bikers. Not a single one was in the bike lanes. They were all on sidewalks. So it kind of struck me as it's not exactly if you build it, they will come. How are you planning to get people to use the bike lanes?
Well, I respectfully disagree.
Well, I'm just telling you what I observed.
Sure, no. And the thing is, and you and I, we spoke about this several years ago about having to educate both motorists and cyclists. So it actually is if they build it, they will come, because by building it, you make for a safer environment that cyclists now discover they have that, and they can ride on that. Family can ride with their young children on that and know that they'll be safe.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
There have been, I've seen, in various social media outlets, concerns about them, people having questions and concerns and challenging. Some of them are, even on Larchmont Avenue, it's basically reduced to one lane now.
Right.
And we will go over some of what you would like to do. You're reducing some of our bigger streets that are congestive as it is to single lanes.
Right.
And how do you address that concern?
Well, actually, the concern about safety on Larchmont Avenue was the issue that there actually were two lanes, and the issue about people passing on the right-hand side. By reducing Larchmont Avenue down to single lane in most of the places where you don't need two lanes, I mean, at intersections it remains two lanes. It actually makes it safer, and that will be really. That's what really helps it. I mean, Larchmont Avenue is actually so wide because it was designed to carry a trolley. So we're simply replacing that trolley lane with a bike lane.
Another question that came up is people being concerned about making a right turn if there's a bike lane, and from the can you cross the bike lane, but also sometimes you're not going to see a cyclist coming up on the right side of you. What do you do?
That's about educating the motorists and the cyclists both. It's about making sure that the cyclists, you have bells, you notify that the motorist that you're passing through that lane, and it's no different than a pedestrian going across that road.
Well, except that the biker goes more quickly and can come out of nowhere much more so than a pedestrian.
No, it's true. It's
Right.
a matter of education and the motorists being aware. But that's actually a good thing in a community, that motorists aren't going that quickly. That what they
Slows
talk
people
about,
down.
Exactly. It calms the traffic. That people are more conscious that there's there's a sort of third mode of movement. It's not just somebody walking, but there's actually somebody moving a little bit faster.
We have an emailed question. Will there be any fines for violations for driving or parking in the bike lanes?
So we can't speak to what the village of Larchmont may choose to do in the town, which is our primary focus. We haven't progressed that far. I think the town may be looking at that, but what the town overall would like to do is promote complete streets, promote people to feel safe on the streets, promote people to be able to bicycle, and therefore I think certainly in any roll-in period, in any break-in period for lanes, certainly the town is going to be very interested in encouraging people to get out there and try it, encouraging people to practice, practice behind the wheel, practice on the handlebars, and learn how to work with each other and be with each other in this a little bit different environment, but one that everybody actually is already somewhat familiar with.
I want to talk about where you'd like to put the bike lanes in the town, beyond where they are already. And we have some slides of the locations. So I think the first, if we can go to the slides, the first one talks about, shows that you're trying to link train stations and schools, and your commuting areas, parks, and those things, right?
That's right.
And I guess that gives an overview of what you want to do.
So if we could just take a minute on
Sure.
that. So one of the things that we've learned from the consultants that the town has hired over the last couple of years, the first consultant was a fellow named Jonathan Orthcutt. He worked for a long time during the Bloomberg administration for Jeanette Sadiq Khan, who was the transport commissioner. And Jonathan was really much involved in getting the whole bike lane program in New York started. One of the things he said is that sometimes at the outset people think, oh, we should put a bike lane down 2nd Avenue or 7th Avenue or 9th Avenue. And in fact, if you want to encourage ridership, people don't go to a street because they want to ride on the street. People will use a street because they want to go from some point A to another point B. So he encouraged us to look first and foremost at destinations. So the slide that's up is really looking at about 10 different kinds of destinations. Maybe our highest volume destinations are the train stations and our schools. But when you think about it also, there are places of worship. We have our retail areas. There are clubs, there are parks, a big draw. Some of these are a little bit more frequently used during the week. Some of them are used a little bit more frequently during the weekend. So the first effort was really to focus on where are all of those potential destinations.
So having done that, we can go back to slides. I want to talk about some of the roads that you're targeting. We have Larchmont Avenue. You're looking at Palmer Avenue, Boston Post Road, Weaver Street between Myrtle and Palmer.
So I think if it's the slide of with the 2 train stations, that's the one that's up at the moment?
It's actually not. We're the one of Palmer Avenue where there's the Metro North.
All right. So let's talk about Metro North. Probably if anybody who's gone to the train station, either to train stations continuously over the last 5 years, and you're a train bicycle commuter.
That's right.
Knows that the number of bike parking spaces at each of the stations has more or less doubled over this time. Is that about right?
Yeah.
And by numbers, it's the train stations, each of them is probably right up there with Mamaroneck High School and Hommix as being the biggest single draws for bicycling commuters. And what the slide is showing is not saying any particular route just yet. It's saying, within the context of what the town is trying to do, where are the areas where, as far as we can tell at the moment, people are coming from less. So there are some areas, for instance, let's say the Larchmont train station. People come perhaps from the village of Larchmont. But for instance, if you come up beyond toward the Murray Avenue neighborhood and over in the gardens, maybe there are fewer people there. So the question marks are there to say, we think this is an area that's probably a bit underserved relatively. And so maybe let's think about how we can do something to promote riding from those areas.
So are you saying the proposed bike lanes are the proposed plans, those are not set? Those are open for discussion, whether we want a bike lane going on North Chatsworth Avenue, for example.
That's right. Community outreach and engagement is going to be a very, very important part of this, and the town is really very interested in encouraging it. For instance, if you were at the train station and you wanted to go to Murray Avenue School, for instance, there are 3 or 4 different routes you could choose.
All uphill.
Well, some of them more uphill
Yeah.
than others,
Right.
some of them a little up and a little down.
Right.
And all of them with different street configurations, curb to curb widths, parking regulations are different. So all of that is going to play into the next part of our study, which is really to drill down a bit on these particular kinds of sets of destinations or areas that need to be served better, and find out with engaging the community what seems to be the better choices.
Okay, so we actually have another question from a viewer. We talked about before, storage of bicycles.
Right.
Are there going to be increase in bike racks, not just at the high school or the train station, but let's say you want to ride into town to do your errands. Will there be more bike racks available?
That's a great question. I'm going to let you answer it because we were talking
so-
about
We're almost out of
bike
time,
lanes.
so
Yeah.
we have to
Yeah,
get
sure.
through this quickly.
So really quickly, the answer to that is we've been very lucky in the past to have some good participation from some of our community organizations who helped, for instance, put some bike lanes in at Hommick School,
racks, yeah.
bike racks
Yeah.
at Hommick
Hommicks.
School last year.
Right.
We're looking for more of that in the future.
Okay, so at the train station you have to pay for your
Oh,
bike
Metro
parking.
North loves it. They've been
It's Metro North. That's not the village.
That's correct. In Metro North, they call it the last mile, and they've been adding more bike racks in both locations. Village of Larchmont, as part of the streetscape plan, they're still going to add bike racks in that area. We've talked to, as part of this plan, is actually we've done a study of where we need more bike racks. Harbor Island, in particular, is short on it. But the commercial areas, having bike racks there is huge, and there are some. There could be more, because as you build it, they will come.
So the next steps are what?
We're going to go into a detailed study period within the town for the kinds of bike routes and locations and destinations we think are best need of linkage. We'll be engaging the community in that, getting people's opinions. We'll be doing it different kinds of ways. The town, the Sustainability Collaborative Supervisor Seligson and her assistant Sue Odierna are very engaged and interested in hearing from the community about all of these ideas.
And working with the 2 villages. They've been really supportive of it. So the big map that you've seen is actually a kind of collective effort. It's really it's a roadmap, but it's also a kind of wish list. You had a little bit about the industrial area. Part of the plan for the industrial area was to include bike lanes in that. So we see this as a template for what's possible in the community.
And we're going to wrap it up, but we're going to remind everyone you've got the Tour de Larchmont
That's right.
this Saturday afternoon, 2:45,
It starts, be there 2:30. The official ride starts at 2:30.
and that's Constitution Park in Larchmont.
That's right.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we will be back with more community stories and the answer to the trivia question, so stay with us.
Hi, my name is Will, and I'm here with the trivia question of the week. How many studios does LMCTV have? The answer is 2. 1 on Library Lane and 1 in Mamaroneck High School.
This week in sports, The Mamaroneck softball team trailed Yorktown 5-0 in the 6th inning. Shortstop Mia Steinberg provided a much-needed rally starter with a triple in the LMC Varsity Sports Play of the Week.
Mia Steinberg's the third hitter, full count. Let's see what happens. The pitch. Line drive, deep right center field, going back on the track of the wall. It's gonna bounce off the wall. And Steinberg's going to third base. Here she slides, she is safe. It's a triple for Steinberg. And the Mamaroneck finally got that big hit they needed all game long, and they need to chip away.
Also, don't forget that the online poll to determine the 2017 Play of the Year is now live at lmctv.org. The poll will run through Sunday, May 14th, and the winner will be announced at LMC TV's annual award night on May 24th. Let's take a look at the nominees.
Mamaroneck softball, Mirators playoff walk-off. Rhinebeck volleyball, Yanuzzi saves the Panthers. Mamaroneck boys soccer, Howe's head saves the Tigers. Mamaroneck field hockey, Molly banks home the winner. And Mamaroneck ice hockey, Dente's overtime game winner. You can vote once per day, so get to it, sports fans.
And also in sports, a tennis contest for a good cause. 2 Mamaroneck high school students organized Aces for Alzheimer's.
Sport Time Harbor Island in Mamaroneck was a buzz for the first annual Aces for Alzheimer's Tall and Short Charity Tennis Tournament on April 29th. Aces for Alzheimer's is a nonprofit organization co-founded by Mamaroneck High School sophomores Abby Owen and Jane Schmaltz, who used their love of tennis to help raise money for Alzheimer's disease.
Well, both my grandmas have suffered through it. One passed away over 3 months ago, so we started a year ago, but we saw what was happening with it, and we kind of want to find a cure for it so we don't also suffer through it ever again.
We started brainstorming for the event about 5 months ago, and it kind of developed since then. So at first it wasn't going to be as big, it was mostly going to be family, and then it expanded.
Owen and Schmaltz came up with the idea for this parent-child doubles tournament as a way to give parents an opportunity to play with their children. This one-day event, which also featured silent auctions, featured 22 teams which played against each other in a round-robin tournament. The entrance fee was $200, and the participants embraced the opportunity to contribute to the cause.
I really enjoy playing tennis, and it's really fun to me. I think it's a really good cause, and it turned out really well.
We just really understand how important the research dollars are for Alzheimer's. It's a horrible disease, and anything we can do to be helpful, we want to be able to participate and do just that.
According to the Alzheimer's Association, over 5 million Americans suffer from this disease. Many charity organizations and researchers are working tirelessly to find a cure, which was evident by everyone's eagerness to help out in any way that they could to make this event a success.
I think the fact that 2 young athletes here in Mamaroneck decided to start a charity, I think that just automatically just got me wanting to help and do anything I can here at Harbor Island.
If you would like to make a donation to Aces for Alzheimer's, you can visit their website at acesforalzheimers100.org. Although there is no cure for Alzheimer's at this time, treatment for the symptoms is available, and with fundraising and events like this, research is getting one step closer to calling a game, set, match for Alzheimer's disease. For the Local Live, I'm Ian Sachs.
Westchester Children's Museum celebrated its first birthday on Sunday. Our own Mike Witch traveled to Playland for the celebration.
Welcome to Playland. Right below those iconic towers, you'll discover Westchester's unique museum designed for kids. Filled with play and activity areas, the Westchester Children's Museum is a fun attraction for families as well as a hands-on education for youngsters. The idea for the museum has been percolating for many years. Mamaroneck's Corinne Zola heads the fundraising board, and says there's a real need.
I've been involved with the Children's Museum since this was mainly an idea just around a kitchen table of several women that actually lived in Larchmont. And the idea at that time was to build an enriching cultural, educational resource for children of the county, particularly for those who didn't have access to museums. There are people who've never been to museums, don't feel welcome in them, and a children's museum is a place that welcomes everybody. We needed to fill that void.
Museum staff planned for hundreds of visitors, among them this family.
I did this coloring thing, and when I painted it, and when it got dried, it looked good, and I was like, wow.
They're learning, definitely, and it's also entertaining for the parents as well.
No birthday party is complete without a birthday cake, a real one, by the way, and this party included a proclamation by County Executive Rob Astorino.
I want everybody in Larchmont and Mamaroneck to come down to Playland, to come here to the Children's Museum, have a great time, and of course, just enjoy the whole day. Spend part of your day indoors here at the museum, and then go on the boardwalk, go into Playland, and have a great day together.
Judging from the smiles, the sounds, and several dozens of displays, this party was a big hit, and this museum will continue to grow into one of Playland's premier attractions.
Now, do you love truck food and local business? Watch Ian Sachs at the Mamaroneck Food Trucks and Makers Market.
Who's hungry? It looked like the whole town of Mamaroneck was here at the Mamaroneck Food Truck and Makers Market. Just look at this line lining up for the world famous Walters. About 6 food trucks here today and about a dozen makers and creative people filling out the streets here, and everybody's showing up.
I'm actually from New York originally, but I live in Colorado for the last 4.5 years, so it's nice to be back. And one of the things that bring me back is food in general. I'm a sucker for simple foods like pizza, burgers, ice cream.
Everyone in attendance got exactly what they wanted to eat, from the likes of Mamaroneck's famous Walters hot dogs to gyros, burgers, wood-fire pizza, Mexican food, and ice cream. The variety brought a lot of praise from the attendees.
It's a great idea. It's a great way to bring the community together, for one, and food. Everybody loves food. You know, I think it's just a fun event to have in town, and I'm very excited.
The local vendors displayed their creativity and artistry, showing off their own products, ranging from jewelry such as bracelets, necklaces, and earrings, to paintings, dream catchers, canvas bags, print screens, a cookbook, clothing, and even glitter tattoos. With so many craftspeople lining the streets, the community's interest in local businesses was fully on display.
I'm very, very excited about the output of this event because it shows really like the community really wants this and wants to support it. And it's also not just a one-person thing. This is definitely a collaboration.
While the main focus concentrated on the vendors and their talents, some of the younger participants showed off their creative side. Children seized the opportunity to decorate the street, and teens took the stage as members of Mamaroneck's School of Rock. Streetside was where LMC TV broadcast the event live on television and the internet. In the past, the station has produced live town meetings, but the Food Truck and Makers Market was the first mobile event the station broadcast live.
It's been really fun. I mean, you can see people come up and, oh, what's that? I can be on TV, you know, and that's really what we want to do, to be that presence in the community where people can come to us and, like you said, get their message out there and have a fun time doing it.
Well, after fighting off all those crowds back there, I had to finally take a seat and relax. For the Local Live, I'm Ian Sachs.
Is your teen interested in films? Then LMC TV's filmmaking workshop is just for them. Teens work together to write, direct, act, and edit their own films. It's a full filmmaking experience you won't get anywhere else. We offer 2 workshops with limited space, so sign them up today for a fun, enriching experience. LMC TV, your filmmaking community connection.
Sunflower is a sweet 3-year-old black cat. She loves the camera and would make an excellent social media buddy. She gets along well with people as well as other cats. For more information on how to adopt Sunflower or other cats and dogs, visit ny-petrescue.org.
Remember, to help keep us on the air, make an online donation. Go to www.lmctv.org and click on the donate button in the upper right-hand corner. We would really appreciate the help.
We always welcome new volunteers and interns, and we'd love to hear from you. Send an email to the local live at lmctv.org and join our crew. Thank you so much for watching our show. That's all for tonight. I'm Alexandria Garcia.
And I'm Rob Baez. May the 4th be with you, and see you next week for another episode of The Local Live.